Hey, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's Adam Rich from the Really Rich Podcast. And listen, there's a lot of people that we're all, like, a ton of us are on social media now. A ton of us have, our own views, our own political standard, or our own ideas or thoughts about something, our own beliefs and all that. And what breaks my heart is to see that people that have differing views, or maybe they're just mad at each other because of an argument they had. I hate seeing like friends or people that are relatively close to each other just unfollow people on their social media pages. Like, they unfriend them on Facebook, they unfollow them on Instagram or Twitter or whatever. And here's the thing, if you don't like the person, or if you don't have any good reason to be, that you don't want to talk to them anymore, or they're just, you just want them out of your life, that's a different story. I mean, go ahead and, unfriend or block or whatever you got to do. But the weird thing about it to me is that people make these decisions when they're in an emotional state that passes. And they just unfollow, like they'll, somebody's a Republican, somebody's a Democrat, they differ on something, they argue about it, somebody posts about it on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, and then all of a sudden, that person's like, oh, fuck that guy, and then they unfollow him. They're like, I don't agree with your views, or they'll argue with you on your post. And the way I look at it is this: regardless what you're talking about, it doesn't even have to be political or religious. It doesn't have to be any of that. It could just be, I've seen people do this shit over football teams in the NFL. I'm not fucking around. I've seen people just quit being friends with somebody because they root for two different teams, and the one person's team wins, and the guy, whoever wins, they're an asshole about it. They're a sore winner instead of a sore loser. And they just boast and act like a dick about it. And then I've seen the person, like the other person, the guy that lost, or whose team has lost, I've seen them unfriend the people. And it's so disheartening to me because of this. If you don't want to be a friend of that person anymore, as a whole, not just when it comes to your sports team, or not just when it comes to your political view or your religious view or anything like that, if these people are relatively at all important to you when you're not when you're not bouncing around emotional states, if they're a person you want to keep around because your friendship goes deeper than a fucking opinion, then you should keep them around. Just because you're mad at the moment, take a step away. Like, take a step away from Facebook, or take a step away from Twitter, or whatever you're on. Just step back from that. You don't have to, just because you disagree, or maybe you were proven wrong. Maybe you're mad. Maybe you're just mad because your point was disproven, or maybe it wasn't disproven, but a couple of people piled on or something, and because you're outnumbered, even if you're right and they're wrong, just because you're mad, or you're sad, or you're bitter, or you're hateful, or you're angry at that moment, if that person is important at all to you to have around sometimes in your life, why are you unfriending these people? Like, dude, I've seen this shit happen with people that I work with, where a guy unfriends a guy that they work with. And it's like, dude, you got to work with him every fucking day. 8 hours a day, minimum. You got to work with this person. And they know that you unfollow them. They know that you're here's what you should do. If you don't want to see their shit, like maybe somebody's posting political stuff and you don't agree with their view or whatever, you could always block the person. But I think it's just so unnecessary when people take that next step of unfriending. Listen, dude, if I unfriend you, it's because I don't want you in my life again. Like, for real, like ever again. I don't ever unfriend people that I've known for, like, there's people I haven't talked to in years and I'm still friends with them on Facebook or Instagram or something. And it's not because, it's not like I don't talk to them because I hate them or something like that. Like, maybe we're just not close anymore. Maybe our views are different, but I don't want to be an asshole and just be like, oh, well, you know what, you like Trump or you hate Trump and I'm the opposite, so therefore, fuck you, I'm not your friend anymore. It is such a stupid fucking reason to stop being friends with somebody just because of their political view. If you can have a conversation with this person, if you've been in the same room with them and it's been cordial, it's been good, and you've had conversations that had nothing to do with politics or religion, and then they post something that you disagree with, whether, like I said, maybe they're a Christian and you're an atheist, maybe vice versa. Maybe they're Muslim and you're Christian, or you're a Jew, maybe you're Jewish and they're Muslim. I know those two people don't get along great. But listen, if you're friends on a different level, don't throw all that away just because they've made a post that you don't like. Like, you can always block. I've had my own family members block me and unfriend me and then send me friend requests. And listen, I'll give you one. I'll give you one chance, because the excuse that I consistently hear is, oh, somebody hacked my account. So sorry, it wasn't me that did it. Okay, here's what really happened. Nobody fucking hacked your account. Maybe they did. I'm sure it happens. But let's be real. Nobody hacked your fucking account. What happened was, you didn't want to be my friend because you were mad for a minute, and you unfriended me, and then once that emotional shit wore off, and you were back to normal, you were like, maybe I shouldn't have unfriended him. Here's what I'll do. I'll add a friend request again because I'm over my feelings. And then I'll just tell him somebody hacked my account. It wasn't my fault. And here's the best part. I'm a lenient guy. I'm a very nice person. When you're nice to me, when you're good to me, I'm totally good to you. I don't like shitting on people that are good to me. I never have. I'm hoping to never do that. But I'll give you one. If you unfriend me once and you send me a friend request, I will gladly accept it. We all make mistakes. You may have accidentally unfollowed me. You may have had a hacker get into your account. You may have been pissed off at me for a moment and then unfriended me. And even if you don't want to admit it, I'm a grown enough person. I'm mentally stable enough to accept that. I pissed you off. That's my fault. I'm sorry. You unfriended me like a child, and now you're coming back because that childish shit wore off, and you're back into a normal state and we can be friends again. I'll give you one, but if you do it a second time, you're fucking done. Your Facebook profile or your Instagram profile is officially dead to me. I'm not playing this fucking game where we go back and forth over and over. You friend request me, I accept. You get mad at me, you unfriend me, then you friend request. Listen, if you want to, I'm a 36-year-old person. I don't hang out with children a lot. I hang out with my kid and my family's kids. I don't go around. I don't like acting like I'm buddy-buddy with children. Okay, so if you're going to act like a child, then I'm sorry, you're going to deal with the hand that's dealt. That's what you get now. You did that at that point. You know what you're getting. Like, when I post something, you know what's fucking weird? 99% of my shit that I post is like positive and reinforce, like mental reinforcement and confidence boosting and basically just trying to help you get into a good frame of mind every day. That's all I'm trying to do, is help people mentally get into a good place in life. And if you don't like that, if you want to unfriend me because you don't like all that positivity talk because you're in a bad mood, then dude, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to come crawling back to you. I'm not going to keep accepting your friend request. I had somebody I work with unfriend me, and then like a week went by and they friend requested me again on Facebook. This is that I'm talking about. And the first time, it's a woman that I work with, and she was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. My husband was so mad. I had to unfriend all the guys in my Facebook and all this shit or whatever." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that's fine." And I accepted the friend request. We never really talked on there anyway, but whatever. So I ended up accepting the friend request again. And then for whatever fucking reason, like a month or two goes by, she unfriended me again, quit the job, and then friend requested me again. And she said the same fucking excuse. "Oh, my husband was doing this, and my husband was mad at me, so I had to unfriend. And I'm sorry, he's out of my life. I'm not going to let him, I'm not going to let some guy determine who I'm friends with and who I'm not friends with." She tried to write all that shit and then send me another friend request. And I was like, I still to this day haven't accepted it. Because I'm not playing this game. Listen, if you have that issue going on in your life where your husband or wife is telling you who you can and can't be friends with, and they keep making you delete people, and then later on, you break up for a day and you start friend requests, and then you get back together, and then you got on. Listen, I'm not playing that game. So you deal with that shit on your own. And here's the thing. Like I said, it's not a person that I talk to anyway, regular. I worked with her for a while, but we never talked outside of work. So it's like I'm not going back and forth on Facebook for a person I don't even really have that much of a relationship with anyway. And then when she quit, we still haven't spoke to this day. So, it worked out fine. But my whole thing is this. Just because you're playing this emotional game in your head where you have to friend request and unfriend and unfollow and all this shit, I'm not doing that. And I don't expect anybody else to either. They shouldn't. You shouldn't play that game. It's dumb. And now that I think about it, all emotional decision making is not very smart. It's just not, because if you should never ever make any kind of decision, any kind of decision, small or big. You should never make it based on your emotional state, man, because that shit fluctuates. It goes up and down. I always say like this. You should always base all of your decision making on facts and logic, because your facts and logic are never going to change based on what mood you're in. The facts are the facts. Logically, logic doesn't change. Something is either logically sound or it's not. And that's not a very popular word. I'm hoping, honestly, to make it a popular word, because I think that all truth, all wise decision making comes from using logic. If something doesn't make sense, if it can't really work logically, then why are we trusting in it? Why are we believing in it? You can have a lot of things kind of seem true if you're vague enough. If you give very few details, there's a lot of things that are going to sound true from all kinds of different perspectives. But the more detailed you get, things have to logically make sense, or they aren't true. They will not happen. They won't work. And we make all kinds of decisions based on our emotions. We sometimes we vote based on our emotions. There's, how many people actually vote that do zero research on any kind of policies, political things. There's so many things that people will just say, oh, I don't like that. But you know how many people voted against Trump purely because they didn't like what he talked about? And they do that with every election. Same thing. Like when Obama was running and Mitt Romney, a lot of people didn't like Mitt Romney, the way he I don't know, said things, or the way he thought, or the way he displayed things, and they liked the wit and charm that Obama had. And then when you look back, years later, when you look back, you see certain things did get done, certain things didn't get done, and you can make the judgment then on whether or not the president was a good one or not. But people so many times don't care about the policies. They care about, well, do I like this person? And that's a horrible reason to vote for anybody. Because, listen, you can be the most loved, the most charismatic person on earth and be an absolute piece of shit that let's take it back a step. Look at Hitler. Nobody is a fan of Hitler unless you're a fucking Nazi, right? Nobody is a fan of Hitler. But when he was around in the 40s, his people that he spoke to loved him because he was charismatic. But we look back, 60 years later or whatever it is, or even longer than that. The 40s, 20s, carry the 2, that's almost 80 years. So you're talking, 70 to 80 years later or whatever it is, people look and they're like, no, that guy was evil. He was a horrible human being. He did a lot of terrible things. He murdered a lot of people, innocent people at that. He was purely racist. But yet he had hundreds of thousands and millions of followers at the time. Why? Not because they were all racist and pieces of shit too. It's because he was charismatic. It wasn't about the policies. It wasn't about what he was trying to accomplish. It was, damn, this guy, he sounds good. People like him. And then it was a horrible, horrible thing. So I'm not trying to drop Hitler for no reason. or drop him on you guys for no reason. What I'm saying is you cannot base any important decision on your emotions. And it's like people run into this all the time with abortion. I'm not trying to tell you which way you should think. People have their own opinions, their own ideas. I'm respectful of everybody's ideas and opinions because I know that we all come from a different walk of life. We all have different perspectives. Now, but people think about this. If a young girl gets raped, God forbid, I don't like talking about this or even bringing this up, but this is I'm just trying to make the point to show you what I mean by the emotional decision making. If a young girl gets raped and the person is gone, the person that did the raping is gone, they kill him, they find him, kill him, right? And now say he gets the young girl pregnant though in the process. There's a lot of people that are like, oh, you should have the abortion. But then there's another part of people that are like, well, that's a baby in there. That's a potential life. You're ending the life purely because of the circumstance. And at the time, it's very easy to say, well, this was wrong. This guy shouldn't have did that. This isn't right. And I don't want my, this girl to suffer for the rest of her life because of something that this other guy did. And then the other half of people are like, yeah, but why should the baby have to suffer? Why should you take the human life that's now in development because of the wrongful act of the culprit or the perpetrator or whatever? And so I guess what I'm saying is you should really stop and let the emotional phase pass before you make any real life-altering decisions. Like sometimes people buy a house purely because they just want to have a bigger house or a nicer house or in a better area or whatever. And financially, it just does not make sense for them. But they don't care because they just desperately want that other house. So the emotional aspect of it is, oh, I don't care what makes sense or what's logical or what would benefit me now or in the long term. I care right now today that I want a bigger house or a nicer house, so I'm buying it. And it's like, okay, well, then you do that, but make sure that this is going to be something that is beneficial for you long term, financially, like your desire of it. Do you like the house? Sometimes people just buy the first house they see because it's bigger and nicer. And they're like, oh, this is a great house. And they don't go around to 10, 15, 20 other houses just to see. And then they find out later that it was not a good decision. All I'm trying to say is, I can go on and on all day about examples. But the bottom line is, there is no good reason to make emotional decisions. You need to get back down to neutral. Just take it easy. Sleep on it for a night. Let all the frustration or the anxiety or the excitement, let all that shit pass and get down to a normal, regular, calm state, and then make your decisions. And I can't stress this part enough. Please do all the research you can and put 100% facts and logic into the equation. Those do not change regardless what your mood is. So you got to think about that stuff. And I mean, social media, the unfriending shit, it's becoming a problem. It really is. When grown men, grown women, when adults are unfriending people, I expect that kind of shit out of a fucking 10-year-old or a 14-year-old. I don't expect it out of a 35-year-old man or woman. I don't expect it out of anybody over the age of 20, because if you're over the age of 20, you know exactly what you're getting into with social media. It's not like this shit just didn't start yesterday. You're not just at 20 years old, yeah, you're a kid, you're young, but you're not an idiot. You don't have an underdeveloped childish mind. I do remember being a 20-year-old male. We do have an immature mind, but it's not an underdeveloped childish mind. It's an immature mind. There's a huge difference. I guess there's not much of a difference. It's kind of the same. But the point is, don't make decisions like that, because it can alter you long-term in a horrible way. Just because today it makes you feel better, it doesn't mean it's going to make you feel better in the long-term future. right? You might have a couple buddies come up to you and be like, hey, let's all go skydiving this weekend. And you're like, oh, fuck yeah, that sounds great and all that. And then you get up there and you're scared to death and you're like, no, I'm not going to do it. And then you don't do it. And then years later, you might regret not doing it. Or you might get up there, something bad, tragic happened. And I don't want to get into full detail. You guys can figure that out. Somebody might get hurt or worse. Then now all of a sudden you're making an emotion. Now you're upset and you're making you're making decisions or you're having feelings about something that may not have happened. Listen, I see this all the time with school shootings. A school shooting happens and all of a sudden everybody that's on the Democratic side, the left-wing side, wants gun control immediately. But then all of a sudden you see a school shoot, like some kid shows up to school with a gun, starts shooting, and then somebody else with a gun takes him out. Then when that part of it doesn't fit the narrative, they don't want to talk about it. But when the first time it happens and you see kids getting killed by school shootings, you're like, the first thought is, oh, this is a travesty, this is horrible, which it is. But then some of these people's first responses is, this is why we need to get rid of all guns. The problem is you're making an emotional decision about gun control because the bottom line is, what do cops have? Cops have guns and they use them to save lives. A Secret Service, Army, like military people. What do they use? They all use guns to protect. They don't use it to murder. They use it to protect. People that have guns in their homes that are registered, 99% of those people are using them for self-protection. They're using them to protect themselves and their families. And you want to take away guns from good citizens that are abiding by the law because you're mad that criminals are using them in the wrong way. And it's like, if a criminal that doesn't have a license, because 9 times out of 10, these people that are doing these shootings, these mass shootings, they're not registered weapons. It's very few times do they go to the store, buy a weapon in their own name, and then spray a crowd down. It just doesn't happen very often. I'm sure it has. Of course it has happened. But the majority of shootings, the majority of all gun deaths are by people with an unregistered weapon to their own name. And why I say that, meaning in their own name, means there are times where people in a household may take a gun that is registered and then they may shoot themselves or somebody else, but they're not using their own gun in their own name. They're using somebody else's gun that just happens to be in that household. Or they'll go to a friend's house and then steal their friend's dad's gun and do it. I've seen, when I was in high school, a kid was showing his friends his dad's gun, and one of the friends used the gun. They thought it was unloaded. The kid pulled the trigger, aimed at his own friend whose house the kid that got shot and killed was the kid who lived in that house, and it was his dad's gun. But it was the friend who used the gun, the friend of the child, who used the gun to kill the friend. And he didn't do it on purpose. They were friends. They were just they thought it was unloaded. They were fucking around, and then he pulled it. Bottom line, never aim a gun, unloaded or not, at anybody and pull the trigger. Never do that. But the point is, man, you'll have so many people come out of the woodwork when a tragedy happens, when something bad is going on. You'll have people get emotional about it, and then they want to make all these new laws or new decisions based on how they're feeling at the moment. And that is not a good way to make any kind of big decision. It's not even good to make small decisions like that, let's be honest. But the big ones, of course, it's not good. So I just wanted to drive that point home. I don't mean to repeat myself over and over and over, but I want to give examples because I think it's very important. I think it's very important to see this from many different sides, not just, give you one example and be like, see, you should never do it for all cases. I like to give many different examples, even if it does sound repetitive. So I'm sorry about that, but I hope you get the point, guys. Always let your emotional state come back down to your normal, neutral, calm self when you're in your normal, mental, regular frame of mind, and then make decisions on things. Don't ever let the emotions get in your way of making a smart decision. That's the best way I can put it. Never let your emotions get in the way of making a smart decision. That's the best way I can put it. And that's all I got for you guys today, guys. I love you so much, and I thank you for listening. If you want to get a hold of me, ask me questions about this, anything. If you agree, disagree, you hate me, you love me, anything, please get a hold of me. You can do that through the Anchor app. You can leave me a voice message, or you can get a hold of me on Instagram at Really Rich Podcast, on Twitter at Really Rich Adam, Snapchat and YouTube. You can get a hold of me. Really Rich is the name. And on LinkedIn, you can find me at Adam Rich, founder and host of the Really Rich Podcast. And on TikTok, you can find me. It's Adam Rich. I love you guys so much, and I thank you again for listening, and I will talk to you soon. All right, peace. I'm out of here.